water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.
You know, I was just saying to myself that the one thing Season 2 really needed was its own version of The Great Divide. Okay, so it's not that bad. This episode is much better than The Great Divide, I'll say that much. So, welcome back to the Avatar Vlogs, everyone. This is episode 25, Avatar Day. And this is an episode that, I'll be very honest, it did get a little better when I watched it this time around. I actually watched this episode about 3 times kind of in preparation for this video. Not because I wanted to get a ton of notes or anything, but just because I just like this episode. I actually think this is a decent episode. It's not one that has like a ton of major plot relevance or great action scenes. It's just I'm really sorry. Oh, sorry about that. It's just an episode that I think has a good premise and is very funny. This is probably, for me, the funniest episode I've seen so far. It's my favorite episode to feature Sokka. By far and away, this is my favorite Sokka episode. And yeah, this is just a good episode. So Team Avatar is once again traveling when they come across a village that celebrates Avatar Day. And initially we're thinking, oh, that's going to be nice. This is like the first place that actively celebrates the Avatar. I mean, we kind of saw this in a previous episode with Kyoshi, but here it's nice again to see a town that has their own festival dedicated to the Avatar. However, when Team Avatar gets there, they find that this celebration is not for the Avatar, it's actually against the Avatar. Because as it turns out, a long, long time ago, way back in history, apparently Avatar Kyoshi killed the leader of this town known as Chin the Great, who, I'm just going to say, he might be a fascist. And so since then, the town has held this huge grudge against the Avatar. Aang, being Aang, decides he wants to stand trial for his crimes and get to the bottom of whether or not he actually committed a murder in the past life, because this is a big deal for him, and whether or not he should be pronounced innocent or not. And so the whole episode basically is... Katara and Sokka trying to prove Aang's innocence. Well, it turns out basically the whole thing is set up as a kangaroo court against him. This is just another really good, funny episode. When I first started rewatching this, I was really concerned this was going to go the route that The Great Divide did, where something happened long ago where these people, they mistrust one another because of false information, or at least very mislabeled, I don't know the word, but false information, and they use this as an excuse to fight for years and years and years. But unlike The Great Divide, where that was all a lie, here it turns out that what did happen was true, but it was for very different reasons than everyone thought it was. So, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but it turns out that Avatar Kyoshi did in fact kill somebody, but it wasn't out of vengeance or anything. It was for kind of a very legit reason. But I like this because it does kind of show how history can be interpreted by other people based on how it affected them. Now, for Kyoshi, this was important because Chin was a conqueror. He was conquering basically the entire Earth Kingdom, and she accidentally killed him when she separated Kyoshi Island from the main Earth Kingdom and created the island. But to the people of the town, he was a great, glorious leader who was going to lead the kingdom to glory before he was kind of unceremoniously killed early on. And since then, they've kind of blamed the Avatar for their downfall. I like this because neither part is actually in the wrong in this area. Okay, they kind of are, because Chin was a conqueror, but you could there's not a ton of detail about what he did, whether or not it was like truly, truly wrong. It kind of is, I know, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, they don't, all we know is the end result. But in this case, it's better than, Aang, it turns out, was lying to people. It turns out something did happen, but instead of Aang lying to people or just being based on a silly kids game, it was a real major event, and how the repercussions are still being felt to this day. Aside from that, as I mentioned, this episode is just really funny, and it was kind of this episode that inspired me to start the segment, Sokka's Quote of the Day.
And now Avatar The Last Airbender Vlogs presents to you Sokka's Quote of the Day.
What are you doing?
Well, she is Aang's past life. Maybe wearing her stuff will trigger something.
I do believe in the power of stuff.
And on top of that, there's one moment that I just had to include because it made me laugh so hard when I saw it that I'm just going to put it right here. This is the funniest joke of the episode.
This ceremony didn't take place at sunrise. It took place at sunset. Look at the shadows.
They point east, so the sun must have been in the west.
So what?
If Kyoshi was in the ceremony at sunset, she couldn't have been in Shin committing the crime. She has an alibi.
Yeah, there's that. And again, aside from philosophy, there's not a ton really to talk about in this episode. It's a good episode. There's two kind of major guest stars, I guess. Jennifer Hale's back. It's kind of nice to hear her voice again. And she's Avatar Kyoshi. And it was one of those moments where instantly I heard, I'm like, yep, Jennifer Hale's back. Nice to see her. And as I mentioned, she's Avatar Kyoshi, who will appear a couple more times in the show. So it's nice to have her around. And the mayor in this town is voiced by James Hong, who has appeared in this show before, but I didn't credit him because I honestly kind of forgot he showed up in other episodes. James Hong, of course, you'll know best probably as Mr. Ping from the Kung Fu Panda film series, but if you want to look this guy up, he's been in everything. Like, the man, I think, has 400 credits to his name. Not surprisingly, he has a very distinct, funny, fun voice, and he plays a very distinct, funny, fun character. He's the mayor who, again, this whole town is like kangaroo courting Aang, so everything is set up against him, and how the mayor flat out says, our court system doesn't work on evidence. It's I say what happens, you say what happens, and then I decide who was right. That's why it's called justice, because it's just us. Old joke, but James Hong does make it very funny, and he's even though this character never shows up again, he is a funny character, and I was really always happy whenever he was in this episode. The only thing about this episode I'm really not a fan of is they introduced these characters who are known as Colonel Mung, I think, and the Rough Rhinos, who are these 4 Fire Nation soldiers who ride on Komodo rhinos, and they each have a different specialty. They have bow and arrow, they have fire, they have explosives. They're not like a bad thing, but they did feel very shoehorned into the episode. Like, I remember when they showed up at the beginning, they're very much just there as a setup to kind of justify the town coming around to Avatar Aang's side, which in that case, I guess that's fine, but they didn't feel as natural to the story as I think they could have been. They did feel a little shoehorned in, but aside from that, nothing much else to say about this episode. This was just a really good, fun, funny, Sokka-centered episode. I mean, I like Sokka. This is kind of the episode that cemented it for me. And with that said, this show is honestly only going to go, as I say, onwards and upwards. So, on that note, I'll see you in the next one, and onwards and upwards, my friends.
From now on, we'll celebrate a new Avatar Day in honor of the day Avatar Aang saved us from the Rough Rhino invasion.
What is this?
That's our new festival food, unfried dough. May we eat it and be reminded of how on this day the Avatar was not boiled in oil.
Happy Avatar Day, everyone.
This is by far the worst town we've ever been to.